Welcome to the Operation Bohica podcast. My name is Kevin, and I'm going to give you in this video my honest thoughts on yesterday's 27-21 loss to the Miami Dolphins as the Aaron Glenn era hopefully has hit the lowest point. Hopefully, it has hit bottom as worse as it's ever going to get. And the Jets fall to 0-4. The Dolphins go up 3-0, and then the Jets get the ball, and they're driving, and they're driving, and they're driving, and they're driving, and they're running the ball. They're running the ball. They're running the ball. It's old school. It goes back to the 2009, 2010 ground and pound of Rex Ryan with that great offensive line, and then, uh, good lord, Braylon Allen fumbles it right as he's about to cross the goal line. I believe Minka Fitzpatrick is the one that made the play. Great play by him. You got to give him props for that. And if I'm being honest with you, as a Jets fan of over 40 years, I could have turned that game off, gone to sleep, woke up, checked my phone, and I would have told you that the Miami Dolphins were going to win. It was pretty much over after that point, unfortunately. I'm gonna be honest, the Dolphins are not that much better than the New York Jets, but on last night they were. They were. There's just so much to dissect with this loss, and quite frankly, a lot of it, the majority of it, is really not good. Having said that, before we go any further, I do wanna highlight a couple of bright spots. Mason Taylor had a good breakout game for the Jets. He had 5 receptions for 65 yards. Uh, Garrett Wilson 6 for 82. There was a touchdown that was called back. That call was terrible, which is a whole other conversation. But that one to make it 27-21 on what an unbelievable catch by Garrett Wilson. And I at this point I just feel for Garrett Wilson. Yes, he got the new contract, but I feel that his talent and his prime years are being wasted. He's got another 4 or 5 prime years. Obviously, hopefully he stays with the Jets throughout the duration. Hopefully he stays healthy. But at the rate things are going right now, it's just not looking good. And I guess you can say that this year is over. This season is over. But uh, man, it's got to get better. Got to get better than that. Justin Fields, 20 of 27, 226 yards, a touchdown, no picks. But he had that one bad fumble, but fortunately, nothing really came out of that. But no deep threat. He's scared to throw deep, which is it's a whole other issue. Like I said, there's just so much to dissect, and really, I just don't know really where to begin. Uh, Again, on offense, Garrett Wilson, bright spot. Mason Taylor, bright spot. Garrett Wilson, bright spot. Probably the only thing that I want to highlight is the 2 tackles, Ola Fashanu, Armand Membu. I think we've got a couple of cornerstones there for at least the next 8 to 10 years. If the Jets can keep them together, if the Jets start winning, you've got the 2 bookend tackles, Ola Fashanu in his second year, the rookie Armand Membu. So I got to give Darren Muji props for that one. They nailed that pick, and if Mason Taylor continues to develop, I mean, we might have two great picks coming right out the gate in the Darren Muji era. Some of the other signings we're stone smart at, nowhere to be found. Brandon Stevens, I'll give him credit. He did have a better game this time around, but with all the other penalties that the Jets were getting, I mean, he didn't have to get any penalties. I'll give props to Michael Clemens this time around. No personal foul penalties, but uh, The rest of this Jets defense, atrocious. Tony Adams, the man just cannot tackle. He reminds me of there was this defensive player back in like the mid 90s, around the 93, 94 time frame. I want to say his name was Marvin Washington, and he wore number 48. I know specifically he was a member of the 94 Jets. And bro, let me tell you, Marvin Washington wore number 47, number 97. Excuse me. There was a guy, another Washington, on the 94 Jets. He was either a cornerback or he was a safety. Let me see if I can find him here. Man, let me tell you, that dude right there, you talk about a guy that couldn't tackle, bro. He was Brian Washington. That's who it was. Brian Washington. Man, he played for the Jets from 90 to 94. You talk about a guy that couldn't tackle, and I believe he was what position did he play? He was a strong safety, which I believe that's what Tony Adams plays. Tony Adams is Brian Washington all over again. Tony Adams cannot tackle. Just bench him, get rid of him, and just go with Malachi Moore. And just whatever happens with Malachi Moore happens, bro, because Tony Adams has got to go. He's not the only one. Missed tackles by everybody on the defense. Uh, this defense is absolutely horrible right now. This is quite frankly one of the worst Jets defenses I've ever seen. And when you've been a fan of the New York Jets as long as I have, man, some really bad defenses. I can sit there, go into last night's game and go into some highlights and lowlights and this, that, and a third. And I just really don't want to. Then there's Braylon Allen. Obviously, he had the fumble. And then why in God's name is he returning kicks? Injures his knee. Thankfully, it's not a season-ending one. He'll be out for 4 weeks, which will put even more pressure on Breece Hall. This is just how I've been all day. I'm just kind of just like, I don't know what to say. It's just taking me forever to collect my thoughts. It's the same old Jets. It's 1996 all over again. That's what it feels like. In 1996, I was in the Navy. I was stationed in Jacksonville, Florida. The Jacksonville Jaguars, were a second-year expansion team. The Jacksonville Jaguars get to the AFC title game that year with Mark Brunell, and they had a really good running back named Natron Means, who a couple of years earlier was with the then San Diego Chargers. And the New York Jets that year go 1-15, and I can attest that year was the worst year ever. And this year, it ain't looking good. What I will say, I did highlight some of the positives. Quinnen Williams had a good game as well. Hey, what's going on, Blue Crab? Um, there's little glimmers of hope, but man, this rebuild that Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, thank you, have to undertake this. I think they are starting to realize. I think Aaron Glenn in particular, after last night's game, I think he is really starting to realize just what a task, titanic task he has in turning 15 years of frustration and failure into what can hopefully be a successful regime. Uh, I'm not going to call for him to get fired. Listen. And I looked this up earlier today. And I'm not comparing him to them, but he's got the comparisons to Dan Campbell, who started off 110-1, 111-1 as the Lions coach. Also, and I know it's 50 years ago or whatever, but I'm just hear me out here. In 1979, Bill Walsh took over the San Francisco 49ers. They were 2-14 that season. 2 years later, San Francisco wins their first ever Super Bowl. In 1982, I believe it was 82, Bill Parcells, no, excuse me, 1980, I think it was 1982 or 83, Bill Parcells takes over as coach of the New York Giants in his first season as a first-time NFL head coach. Uh, Bill Parcells in 19 let me look it up real quick. 1983 was Bill Parcells' first season as New York Giants head coach. 3-12-1. The next year they make the playoffs. 2 years later, the Giants win their first Super Bowl. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying, let's give Aaron Glenn a chance. He is inheriting a roster that is not his. This is really not his team. This is Robert Saleh's team. For everybody that is calling for Aaron Glenn to get fired, go back to last season. Okay. Woody Johnson hits the panic button, fires Robert Saleh 5 weeks into the season. How did that work out? How did that work out? I will say this. I don't think the Jets would have made the playoffs last season, but they finished 5-12. I really believe that if they had kept Robert Saleh the rest of last season, I really believe the Jets would have probably won 8 games. And maybe won a ninth game and might have snuck into the playoffs. Uh, but unfortunately, that did not work out that way. So let's not hit the panic button as far as Aaron Glenn goes. This man has a titanic task. And you can make a case that if, we had the defense had done their job against Pittsburgh, and if the defense had done their job against Tampa Bay, we'd be 2-1 going into last night's game. And let's say we lost that game, we go 2-2. Or maybe if it wasn't for those penalties, 13 penalties, and divided equally between the offense and the defense, the Jets could be 3-1 in a perfect world. Obviously, we got blown out week 2 against Buffalo. But let's just be honest with ourselves here. They're 0-4. We are what our record says it is. And we are probably the worst team in the NFL. Yes, New Orleans, 0-4. The Tennessee Titans 0-4. But, with we are probably the worst team in the NFL, the dumbest team in the NFL, the team that is just the lack of discipline reminds me of the New York Jets when Rich Kotite was coaching, and of course Aaron Glenn was a member of both of those teams. 1995, 1996, 3-13 in 1995. 1-15 in 1996. So, again, the look on Aaron and Glenn's face was just like, man, I need a wellness check. TSC, again, to all the Jets fans that want him fired. How many of you realistically thought that the Jets were going to make the playoffs? Me being the me being the optimistic Jets fan that I am, I thought, yeah, maybe we could make the playoffs. Okay, now I don't got slapped in a reality. But we're just gonna have to write it out and just deal with another season of failure, uh, and we're just gonna have to give Aaron Glenn a chance. We don't have a choice. We got to give Darren Muji a chance as well, and see if they can get some players that really wanna be here and are disciplined and professionalism. Things that this team is lacking right now. Throughout the roster, we need to have another conversation about Sauce Gardner. I'm getting to the point where if they trade Sauce Gardner, honestly, which I know it won't happen, he signed that big contract. I've seen no improvement with Sauce Gardner this season. This is we're the same holding penalties that he's been having. Uh, in in the big plays when he really has to make a stop, he's not making stops. I'm sorry, but for everybody that saw my Sauce Gardner is Sauce Gardner him video, he's not him. He's not Darrelle Revis. I'll give you a perfect example. Darrelle Revis was drafted in 2007 by Eric Mangini. I need to do a video on Eric Mangini, but that's a whole other deal. And I remember specifically in that 2007 season, it was not a great season for the Jets. The Jets had they finished 4-12 last year. They had come off a surprising playoff appearance in 2006, where they went 10-6, lost in the wild card to the Patriots. And I remember specifically the Jets went to Dallas at the old Texas Stadium against the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys, they're a great squad that year. They finished 13-3. And I remember in that game, Darrelle Revis was on an island one-on-one with a prime Terrell Owens. A prime Terrell Owens. You knew right then and there that Darrelle Revis was special. She had the Cowboys won the game. But that's how much confidence Eric Mangini had in Darrelle Revis, and subsequently Rex Ryan had that same confidence in Darrelle Revis. You don't see that. I don't see that. I don't see that in Sauce Gardner. I don't see that here. I I don't know. I don't know. I just with Darrelle Revis those first few years, you saw his improvement. You saw that he wanted to improve. I don't see that with Sauce Gardner, unfortunately. Don't get me wrong, I was hyped when he got drafted. I thought he was him, but it's one thing when you're playing wide receivers, from the University of Toledo and Austin P and Army. It's a whole other thing when you got to take on, Justin Jefferson, and you got to take on uh Jamar Chase, and I don't know, man. I don't see that with Sauce Gardner, man. I just don't. Like I said, I know they're not going to trade him. Obviously, they signed him to that big money contract. But you know what? I would kind of think about it. I would think about it. I would even let Quentin Williams go because he's been here what 7 seasons and no playoff games, no playoff appearances, and I think Quentin Williams deserves better. He deserves so much better. Garrett Wilson deserves so much better, especially Garrett Wilson. I just hope that Aaron Glenn can turn this around while Garrett Wilson is still in his prime years. Justin Fields is probably not that dude. Hey, look, give him props for that broken play, that 43-yard touchdown run. But as far as throwing downfield, he doesn't have the confidence to throw downfield. Of course, the Jets do not have a second receiver either. So let's be fair to Justin Fields as well. But give him props in 3 games, no interceptions. So, uh, but it's just I'm just kind of going. I'm going here, there, and everywhere because that's how I feel as a fan. I feel like I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. There's so many problems to solve with this team, and for the last time, Aaron Glenn has got a Herculean task ahead of him. See, that's the difference between when he inherited the Jets and Rex Ryan inherited the Jets. See, this is what people don't want to hear. When Rex Ryan inherited the Jets were 9-7. Obviously, you had the problems with Brett Favre; they let him go. But they had a squad. They had Leon Washington. They had Chris Jenkins. Had Darrelle Revis about to go into his prime. They had Calvin Pace. So I think in 2008, the Jets had 8 Pro Bowlers, and they lost their last 3 games and missed the playoffs. Aaron Glenn, this is a whole different situation. that Aaron Glenn is in. So I guess that's it. I mean, I can go on and on with my thoughts about this situation, but I think I'm just gonna leave it here because it's tiring. And yes, it is the same old Jets. And honestly, it's not even the same old Jets. Actually, Aaron Glenn is right. It's not the same old Jets. It's worse. We've taken two steps backwards. Now, when are we going to take three steps forward? But again, I'm willing to give him a chance. I made the comparison to Bill Walsh and Bill Parcells. You know, Mike Ditka, he took over. The Bears were terrible his first year. So, and look what the Bears became back then. I know that was so many years ago, but I'm just for context. First time head coach. Let's let's pump the brakes. Hopefully, Woody doesn't do not stupid like he did last year. So that's it. Those are my thoughts. This has been the Operation Bohica